And what always astonishes me again and again is the fact that I could read any book, any good book, it doesn't matter from which age, and there would be a person in it that has just the exact feelings that I have sometimes. Hello, I'm Tina. I want to talk a little bit about books I have been reading, also about my life. And if you don't know me, I want to introduce myself. I'm a guitarist. I'm 47 years old. I live in Berlin with my family. I have a daughter. She's going to be 4 at the end of the year. And I have a long-time boyfriend. And we are together for now 17 years. He's a drummer. You can check out his website if you want to. His name is Derek Scherzer. We used to play together in a trio. And there are also some recordings of tunes that I have been writing, that I have written. And -1 is one of the tunes that you can check out. I have been studying jazz guitar in Würzburg, in Amsterdam and in Paris. And when I went to Paris, I wrote the tune -1 because I was separated from another boyfriend at the time. He was a guitar player and I had a very little apartment in Moabit with a piano in it, and it took me actually 3 months to write the tune. I really love it very much, and also I have been starting to write tunes again. I wrote I'm Selling the House, if you want to check it out. I just wrote it last month and I have been recording it in my kitchen. Actually, I wanted to talk about books now. Okay, I start with one of my favorite books. It's from Elizabeth Gilbert, and she wrote the book Eat, Pray, Love. And she has written a lot of books, but I have to say I don't love all her books. It's a little bit like with the Woody Allen movies. Some are really great and some are not so great. But this book I can only highly recommend. It's the story of a woman that doesn't have any children and leads a very happy life. And she's sort of a botanical explorer in 1800, in 18,000. So it's a lot about plants and science and botanical explorations. A very good read. I can highly recommend it. So another book that I really like a lot is Siri Hustvedt. I don't know if you know her, The Blazing World. She is the wife of Paul Auster and probably hates it to be introduced like this. So Paul Auster is the husband of Siri Hustvedt. She is an older woman and an artist. And then she decides, after the death of her husband, who has like an empire of art objects, she decides to use a persona or like an alter ego to present her art into the world. And the man get very successful with her female art, and she does that 1 or 2 or 3 times with different men, and it's very interesting. It's also very demoralizing because, of course, in the end, it's like if she would have been a man, she would have been much more successful from the start. And because she's a woman, she just doesn't get the same recognition. Though there's also a scene where everybody, when her husband is still alive, and they're sitting at the table and she's in the role of offering food around and nobody's really talking about her art. It's always about her husband. He's very wealthy and very powerful. So I'm wondering, of course, I'm playing the guitar. I'm a woman. I'm playing jazz guitar. If I would be a man, if I would be more successful, I doubt it actually, but maybe some things would be easier. It's a very good book. I cried at the ending, and just read it for yourself and yeah, let me know what you think. She's the daughter of Johnny Cash. It's a lot about country music, of course, a lot about songs, it's a lot about songwriting, but it's also about her life. She has, I think, 5 kids and her way of becoming an artist, and a lot of wisdom in it. Oh yes, so she's talking about some records here, and I wrote down the records of Bob Dylan, Desire, and yes, James Taylor's Gorilla. So this is sort of a thriller. It's about a girl with her father. I don't remember what is with the mother. And she's a total bookworm and she's reading all the time. So the chapters have book titles. If you don't know what to read, you can read all the book titles books. I'm repeating myself, another very good book. And here is one of my favorite books, Middlemarch, from George Eliot. You probably know, I think we have a reoccurring theme here, that she's a woman, George Eliot, and she disguised herself as a man to be a writer. And the story is basically about two young women in the countryside, I think in England, and they're getting married. And the one of them is Dorothea, and she really wants to learn a lot. She's very curious, and at that time and at that age, the only possibility for her to learn something is to marry a man who's very... She marries Mr. Causau-Baun, I can't pronounce it.
Kasaben.
He's like a professor and has a lot of books, a lot of knowledge, and she marries him because she hopes she can study with him together and that he will teach him everything that he knows, because she's very curious. And that doesn't really happen. The story is so interesting because I have in my life been falling in love with guitarists who have been playing so well, and I always wanted to be near them or together with them, sometimes only for the fact that they would play so great. So I know that if somebody plays great and with a lot of sensitivity and emotion, that doesn't mean necessarily that he is that kind of guy that one thinks somebody is, because he's like exceeding all that musical ideas, or that music can be like magic, right? And then you're just like in that. It's very seductive, and it's a little bit the same story of a woman who's seduced by something somebody is or can do. And yeah, it just reminds me of myself, and I always try to reverse engineer it. So sort of I would be playing so great, man would be like crazy about me. Sort of works out, I have to say. But it's not the same thing. Yeah, it's a classic. A little bit hard to get into it because the language is a little bit older. So I read this one in German. But in the end, it's also like a soap opera, because you get to know a lot of different families and their stories. And I think reading books and learning about other people, it's a good exercise for having empathy with other people. And what always astonishes me again and again is the fact that I could read any book, any good book, it doesn't matter from which age, and there would be a person in it that has just the exact feelings that I have sometimes. Then they are expressed very well, and then yeah, it's just like we are all connected, we're all different, and we all have different feelings and emotions and thoughts, but still there are some things about being a human being that we all share, something that I find so comforting about reading books. So Margaret Atwood is abundant fantasies. The stories are often placed in the future, and she's thinking through scenarios how life could be. And in that Handmaid's Tale, it's like there are no babies anymore in the world, and all the women that are still fertile, because the virus in this case is that no woman can't get pregnant anymore. The women that are still fertile, they are recruited and they have to obey the more wealthy man, and they have a ritual, and it's really very dark, very Nazi-like, and all the crimes that are done against women, they're all in there, but also against humanity at all. It helps you have a look on refugees or people who are leaving their country, because you're really placed in their situation. I also love, what's her name? You know, the main actress, Elizabeth Moss? Yes. She's so great. I watched a lot of series with her, so if you don't know her, there is one that's called Up the Lake something. I'm going to Google it. I have 3 last books, and they're all marketing concerned. We're All Weird from Seth Godin. If you don't know him, check it out. It's about tribes. If you persist in trying to be all things to all people, you will fail. The only alternative then is to be something important to a few. Talking a lot about how the market has changed and the media has changed. So for example, you know, when I was 18, everybody would go to the cinema and most of my friends would have been watching the same movies and listening to the same music. And so if you met somebody, you could talk about that because everybody had the same more or less influences. But today everybody has another channel that they're watching, be it a YouTube channel or Netflix, another series, another podcast. So it's much more diverse. Also, it's a chance for us musicians to have our own niche and our own tribe. Very good book. It's about marketing. Also very good. I don't remember a word what it is in it. Yeah, the thing is, he says, if you want to be successful, you have to do something nobody else did before. Basically, that's the whole message. And the last but not least is this book. If you're thinking about branding for your YouTube channel or record label or whatever, I think if you work through this book, so I'm halfway through, that will already be a very good start. And it's about telling a story and letting you be the hero instead of me. And yeah, would have never thought that I like marketing. It's so interesting because it has so much to do with psychology. Enough. Tschüss.